Hi guys, it's Frankie from Frankie Tech, and I'm here with a new quick series that I'm doing here, and I call it Worth It in 2020. And I gotta say, credit to Kinjo. He was the one who shared this idea to me on a recent community post. So shout out to you, man, and thanks for this awesome idea. And this is just going to be a quick series here with some of the phones I have, seeing whether these phones are worth buying in this date, February 2020, in this year. Are these phones worth it? And the first one I thought would be fun to do is this POCO F1. Now this phone was launched in August of 2018, and when this came out, as you guys know, this was the absolute flagship killer 2.0. This phone, like the original OnePlus One, redefined the category of what it meant to be a flagship killer. And with just amazing specs like the Snapdragon 845, 8 gigs of RAM, up to 256 gigs of storage, and just so many other awesome features. One of my favorites being 3D face unlock, as you can see right there, just works so effectively. This phone just brought so much to the table for $300 US. And so the question arises now, we are a good 1.5 years now almost past that date. Yes, certain aspects of this phone definitely have aged. I think the biggest part that has aged are the bezels. So you see the top and bottom bezel. You don't see these kind of bezels from Xiaomi, even in their lower priced products. Yes, there was quite a bit of technology that they did include, like I said, the 3D face unlock on this POCO phone, and I thought that that was a terrific feature. I still love that, but yes, it led to having a giant bezel on the top, and it just looks ungainly now when you compare it to the punch holes and the other designs you see in 2020. The bottom bezel was no different, and the other aspect of this phone obviously was the build quality. Now you rarely see phones made of plastic, and you see even the POCO X2 has now come out with Gorilla Glass and with a kind of a fancier look. But let me tell you guys, the beauty of this POCO phone was that it sacrificed on things like build quality, nicer looks for performance. And to this day, this phone, guys, is still getting software updates. And there we go. I have a MIUI version 11 software update ready to go. But this POCO F1, after a year and a half, is still getting software updates, and it got MIUI 11, and it works beautifully. The other thing that I thought this phone got right just from the start was the cameras. The cameras on this phone, I think, were a lot better than they needed to be at that price point. So that with the Snapdragon 845, you have some decent quality shots. And now this phone only had a dual camera setup here with a 12 megapixel f1.9 aperture and a 5 megapixel f2.0. So a very kind of basic camera setup with a 20 megapixel front camera. But honestly, I thought it did great with shots. And I remember the shots I used to take with POCO phone. I was very impressed for the price. Look at that. That still looks good. Yes, it lacks the wide angle camera, but look at this camera. It still does a really nice job and is very much in line now, I would say, with a lot of the mid-range cameras you see on the market today. Now, the one big elephant in the room now, I would say, is AMOLED and the lack thereof. But back in August of 2018, AMOLED was a complete no-go on phones of this price point. But at the time, to get a $300 phone with all of these specs, it was okay not to have an AMOLED display. And this LCD has aged very well. If I go to the white point here, you see very little ghosting. So they use a solid LCD panel on this phone. I've had almost no ghosting on my unit. While, you know, let's say on the POCO X2 or the Redmi K30 that I reviewed, there was some ghosting around the punch hole area. And this phone does not have that problem. So I would say the LCD has aged very nicely on this POCO F1. The software has aged very nicely. The camera has aged very nicely. The audio, while nothing too impressive, still did the job, I think. And with the inclusion of those 3D face unlock features, it works so well, guys. And the best part of this 3D infrared face unlock is that it works at night. This is one of the few Android phones to this day that I can use in bed, and when I unlock the phone, the thing turns on automatically. Only the iPhone, this phone, and a few other phones that I have do that. And this one does the trick. So this phone clearly had some features that were ahead of its time. And because the Snapdragon 845 was such an advanced chip, even for its time, it has aged very gracefully. There are still some great phones out there that are using the Snapdragon 845 on the daily, and that includes the Xiaomi Mi 8, the Galaxy S9, and the Pixel 3 and 3 XL series as well. This Snapdragon 845 is still doing the job, and it was turbocharged on this POCO F1. The experience has been rock solid. Battery life at 4,000 milliamperes is still very much in line with the capacities that you see here in 2020. And I think just the last thing is almost a cultural aspect to this phone. This POCO F1 has so much love from so many of you out there. It is a beloved phone. This phone has stood the test of time, and it will stay permanently in my collection because it is just such an iconic device. So I think a lot of you out there feel the same. And so if I needed to answer this question, is the POCO phone still worth the buy in 2020? I would say absolutely yes. If you can get this POCO F1 for a good deal, I'm talking like if you can get it for $250 US or even less, and there are some great deals out for the POCO F1. There are aspects of this phone, yes, that look antiquated, but in terms of performance, in terms of the other experiences, now that it has MIUI 11 and that great 3D face unlock, these are things that are still modern to this day, and I think still proves that this original POCO F1 is still fresh, certified fresh here in early 2020 by Frankie Tech. But hit me up in the comments. What do you think of this POCO F1? Do you think it's still worth the money here in early Feb 2020? And would love to hear your thoughts on it. That's it for this video. If you liked it, give me that thumbs up. And if you love the content of Frankie Tech, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon for future updates. So stay tuned, guys, for more phones in this Is It Worth It series. And this is where I leave you by saying, this is Frankie Tech signing off. Have a good one.